Hi everyone, how are you all doing today? I am clearly a little cold. Today happens to be probably the coldest day of the year, and it was also the day that our windows were getting replaced in the house. And so it's extremely cold in here. So don't mind me with my jacket and my scarf on. I am not doing it for some weird fashion statement. I'm freezing. So forgive me for wearing my jacket and a scarf in this video, but I'd otherwise be completely freezing and I wouldn't be able to do this video otherwise. And I really wanted to do this video for you because I promised you I was going to do a video on negative energy. And I wanted to talk about negative energy because I think it's a really important topic to really understand when it comes to protecting ourselves and how important protection is when you start opening yourself up to higher vibrations, opening yourself up to living your life from a place of more love and joy. You know, it seems counterintuitive, but the reality is that you would think that if you're starting to live your life from a place where you're expanding your inner light, you know, you're bringing your light and shining it on the world, and you're trying to be a positive model or force within this realm, that you would encounter less negative energy. But the reality is it's actually the opposite. And there's a very good reason for it. And the reason is because you are no longer a food source. Yes, that's right. Your energy was being used as a food source for what we call negative parasitic entities. Now, this topic is a little bit out there for some because we're taught to believe in the things that we cannot see. But as you know, as you raise your vibrations, as you expand your consciousness, as you meditate and activate your pineal gland, you begin to encounter and have your senses heightened to things that you weren't able to sense before. Now, just to kind of bring this down to a scientific level, our eyes have the ability to perceive the light in the frequency of 400 to 700 nanometers, which basically is white light, which encompasses all the colors of the rainbow. Now, anything outside of 400 and 700 range, our eyes physically cannot perceive. However, our pineal gland also has rods and cones, and our pineal gland is the seat of our soul. It is our third eye. It is the gateway to our spiritual connection. And this third eye is able to see beyond that frequency range. And so this is why many people, when they start to meditate, when they start to expand their consciousness, they're able to perceive things that the average person isn't able to. And so when you open up your mind's eye to more than what you're used to seeing, you will notice that there are a lot of things going on around us that you didn't see before. And one of those things is negative entities. Now, the way parasitic entities work are that we as humans are self-sourcing energy beings. Okay, very important to understand that. We can create our own energy source. We do not need anything else outside of us to create it. So we are self-sustaining. We are self-sourcing. Parasitic entities are not. They need a host to survive. And so that's why we call them parasitic negative entities, because they need a host. Now, the reason being is because they've cut themselves off from source energy so that they can live by their own set of rules. And so the only way that they can sustain themselves is if they are using our energy. Now, it's important to note that it's not just our energy that they can use, it's a specific kind of our energy that they can use. And that energy is low vibration energy, which is in the destructive consciousness level. And that is basically like your fear, your anger, your guilt, your shame, your desires. Anything that's low frequency is what they can feed off of. If you are resonating at a higher frequency and you start to live your life from a place of more joy, more love, you're creating more peace within, more peace around you, guess what? you are starving these entities because they can no longer feed off you. That energy is actually quite uncomfortable for them, to the point where it's like nails on a chalkboard painful to them. And in fact, they will run the opposite way. They can't handle that kind of energy. It is very uncomfortable for them. And so it's not sustained. It's also the energy that they can't feed off of. So the reason why we get attacked is because we are no longer feeding these entities, and they get very angry. I'm not kidding. I'm curious to hear from any of you watching this video if you've had any encounters with this. I certainly have. It's not pretty, and I have many friends and clients who have had these encounters once you start to open yourself up. Which can sometimes, you sometimes think like ignorance is bliss. Maybe I just don't want to know about this stuff, and I just don't want to think about it. And so, but that's not how it works, because you're being manipulated and controlled. You just don't know about it. So again, and I'm actually going to talk about the importance of conscious awareness. Now, so we need to understand how this is used against us. How do negative parasitic entities bring us back down to the level where we can become a food source again for them? And there are a couple of ways that they can do this. I mean, there are multiple ways, but I'm just going to talk about a couple. And so there's a direct way, and then there's an indirect way. Now, the direct way, I'm going to talk about more in another video. It's going to be like a part 2 to this, because I actually want to go into deeper detail on much more of the deeper consciousness levels of a negative energy and how it's embedded in us in a society. But for today's video, there are ways that they can directly attack you by etheric implants. Are one of them. So etheric implants are something that we can't perceive with our own eyes. They're energetic implants that are put into our energy field, and they are used to lower our energy, to basically bring us down. An example of an etheric implant is, for instance, a temporal implant, like one like near your temporal area. And you'll know that you have this if you are someone who is noticing, if you pay attention and you notice that you have this mental chatter going on in your mind where you're constantly arguing with people. Like you're creating these conversations in your head, it becomes like a nonstop cyclical thing where you notice like you're just arguing with people, random people, and you have this conversation going on in your head and you can't stop it, or you're constantly thinking about negative things all the time and you know it's not like you. That is an example where you likely have an etheric implant in the temporal region. So there are ways to remove it. There are people who are able to see these things and remove them, but you don't necessarily need to see it to remove it. You can feel it when you start to become more aware of your energy. And one guy who's really good, and I really like his stuff, is Eric Rains. He's really good at this stuff, and if you want to learn more about how to remove them, I would suggest looking him up. And he's got he teaches you how to remove them through some of his YouTube videos. Now, that is a direct way that you can be affected. Now, there, of course, are ways to prevent that from happening, and that is by understanding that you need to have a protection of you around your energy field. Like you need to have your armor up. Now, I have a meditation that I have put up on my website that you can download that helps to create that energetic shield around you. It's basically like your armor of what I call Christ consciousness. And so if you want, you can go over to my website and check that out if you're interested in that. Now, there are other ways that you can be attacked. Say you're someone who's doing all your protective stuff. You've built your energetic armor around you, and you are now like impenetrable in that way. There are other ways that you can be affected indirectly. And one of the most common ways that it will be used against you is through other people. When you start to raise your vibration, and when you really start to live your life from a more loving capacity, you'll notice that people will try and take you down. And I don't mean that they're intentionally, like purposely in their mind, consciously choosing to do it. It's a very unconscious thing. And it's because your vibration isn't matching, like your frequencies are different. So your energy frequency is much different than theirs, and it's not matching anymore. And it's very uncomfortable for them, as it is uncomfortable for you. You'll notice you don't want to hang around certain people anymore. And it's just because your frequency isn't matching. Now, how these people will be used, and it could be anyone. It could be strangers. It could be your loved ones, family members, friends, coworkers, just random people you know. Like, how it will be used against you is these negative parasitic entities will manipulate them through their energy to pick fights with you, to cause drama, to bring you down energetically. Okay, this is one of the number one ways that is used against you indirectly to bring you down. It's very important to be aware of this so that when it happens, you know how to disengage. If you are really happy all the time and things are going well, and all of a sudden, bam, someone walks into your life and just picks a fight with you out of no reason and starts attacking you, whether it's verbally, emotionally, hopefully not physically, you know, this is it's a very good chance that you are being indirectly manipulated by negative entities so that you can bring your energy down and become a food source again. So be aware of this, because, as I said before, these parasitic entities cannot self-sustain themselves, and they cannot feed off of energy that is high vibe. They need low vibe energy to sustain themselves. So this is very important to understand. Now, the reason why it's so important to become really consciously aware of this stuff, other than like the obvious reasons, is that your individual sovereignty is impaired if you're not conscious of this. So what you aren't aware of, you can't say no to. Okay, so if you don't allow yourself to be educated and aware of the fact that you are made up of energy, that you have an energy field around you, that you have energetic bodies such as your etheric energy body, your astral body, all of these, like your emotional body is also energetic, your mental body is also energetic, your physical body is also energetic, but we see it as tangible matter, so we don't think of it that way. Then you are now opening a door, a legal doorway for these entities to enter and use you, manipulate you, feed off of you. Okay, so that's why it's so important for us to be aware of our energetic bodies and how to protect them. Because once you're consciously aware, now you can say no. Now you can say, this is unacceptable, I do not allow this, and you know how to protect yourself. Okay, so very important. I wanted to talk about that today because as we all start to raise our vibrations and try to move into being like better versions of ourselves and shine our light on the world and try to do good things to help this planet, become a better place for us all to live, these attacks start to happen and it brings people down. I've been attacked and I felt it. I know what it feels like. And it's sometimes hard to recover from it if you don't understand what's really going on. And so it's always important to have this conscious awareness so that you understand how it's used against you and what is actually happening. Now, I want to go into deeper detail of this because there's a whole nother layer on this. And I'm going to talk about that in another video, probably in the new year. I'm going to do it very soon in the new year. And we're going to talk about the deeper conscious layers of this parasitic energy and how it's ingrained in us through millennia through society and institutions and all of that on a day-to-day living way. So stay tuned for that. Now, I also wanted to remind you all that there's only a couple days left for you to enter my contest giveaway. I am giving away a 3-month coaching program with me starting in January. And there are multiple ways that you can enter, but just really quickly, if you want to subscribe to my YouTube channel, my newsletter on my website, inflexibleme.com, or my Facebook fan page, those are 3 quick ways that you can enter. You don't have to do all of them. You only have to do one of them if you want to be entered, but if you want to do all 3, you get 3 chances to win. And I'm going to leave a link below so that you can get all the details to that. And also, I do have a webinar coming up in the new year, in January, on protecting your energy. And I'm going to be doing this webinar with a very dear friend of mine, Jessica Sanchez, and she is the queen of protection. She has helped teach me a lot of what I know, and we're going to go into deeper depths of why we need to protect ourselves and how to do it. And we're going to give you like quick takeaways that you can implement right away after the webinar in your daily lives that you can do every day, in a moment, in an instant, to increase your protection. So that I'm going to leave a link for below as well if you're interested in that. And also, if you are interested, I have a podcast that comes out every Thursday in iTunes called Enlighten Up. It's just all about the spiritual journey. And we've actually got a really cool episode coming out in the new year. We're going to be talking about kind of some similar stuff that I just talked about in this video. But what happens when you start to awaken? Like, what are some of the hurdles that you go through when you awaken? Like, it's not an easy thing. Like, some people think like it's like, oh, you know, I've woken up and I'm aware of things now and life's just going to become easier, and it's not. In fact, it feels worse. So we're going to talk about that and actually have a guest on who's in the midst of actually waking up, and get some stories from her and see where the conversation goes. So I'm really excited about that. So a link for that below as well. And of course, if you need any more information from me, please head on over to my blog, inflexibleme.com. And I will see you all in the new year on January 1st when I announce the winner to my contest live on YouTube. So if you haven't already, subscribe and hit the little bell button so you know when I go live, to see if you have won a 3-month coaching program with me. I'm really excited to work with one of you guys, and I'm really excited to watch your transformation over the month. So that's about it for today. So you know what, guys? See you in the new year. Have a very blessed, prosperous, abundant new year. Be safe, be joyful, spread light and love wherever you can. And I wish you all the success for 2018.